issues and not casually accept, oh, well, yes, the government says I have to do this, and the Federal Reserve System, oh, they're wonderful, they always take good care of us, and we also have to have a welfare system because we don't want anybody falling through the cracks, and also, well, you guys who want freedom, you're not humanitarian, you don't care about your fellow man. Well, guess what? You can't be a humanitarian without being for the free market, because every other one destroys people's wealth and causes poverty and unemployment. Criticize and say, well, you still want too much liberty. You want people to make all their decisions for themselves. Yeah, I do. So what if they make a mistake? Well, then they suffer the consequences. A politician, what if the politician makes a mistake? Does he suffer? No, he's probably protected and we suffer.
Yeah.
So, no, we don't. We want to make all our decisions. We should have a right to spend our own money. What's wrong with that principle? It's your money, you work for it. Natural rights, and understanding the right of the individual's life and liberty, it should follow that you have a right to keep the fruits of your labor. They're yours, they're not the government. We also understand pretty well in this country that we have intellectual freedom. We're allowed to read books, even books about communism, very, very destructive philosophies. We don't burn the books and take them off the shelves. But we have religious freedom, and we're pretty good at religious freedom. Sometimes we see some things that aren't perfect, but basically we're allowed to pick our religion, we're allowed to pick no religion, and religion, can you imagine how many dangerous things have happened over the history of the world in the name of religion? But we don't say you can't have religion because there's a risk to it. And then you say, well, if you legalize all this freedom of choice, even on social matters, your own personal choice, how you want to run your life, the way you eat, in a free society, you will always be able to buy a big drink with a lot of sugar in it. In a free society, you will always be able to buy and drink raw milk if you like. Want you to do. We don't want you to put other things in your body or in your lungs. So therefore, we need to have somebody protecting you against those dangerous things. Well, everything is dangerous. There is responsibility. It should be in a free society. It should be by the individual. But the one reason why there's a hesitation on the left about economic freedom is they'll say, well, there'll be stupid people out there and they won't save their money, they won't take care of themselves, and on and on. And others say, well, if we allow people to put it in their bodies whatever they want, they're going to make a lot of mistakes. You know what happens is, even if people convince it's better, it's this lack of tolerance. It's like, if I endorse your freedom to do whatever you want, religious-wise or economically or whatever, that I endorse what you do. And that is not the case. Because you have religious freedom, I don't endorse your religious beliefs. I endorse your right to do what you want. The freedom philosophy, you understand why there will be more peace, there will be more prosperity, there will be more tolerance. Now, once again, how do we unify people? How do we bring people together? That is the message. That is the message that brings us together. Because we don't have to ask you what you're going to do with your freedom. You might want to use your freedom for one thing, you for something else, but you come together and say, as long as you allow me to do my thing and spend my money, and I assume my responsibility, we should all fight for the same thing, and that is our freedom. We all should be in it together. Yeah! But it is, I am convinced that we do live in very, very important times, very interesting times, but I'm very much optimistic on what's happening intellectually. Tell you what, when I come to a group like this, people like you, conservatives, and want good government and less government, believe in the Constitution, this helps me a whole lot. But when I go to Washington, I have trouble. I have to come home frequently to a piece of legislation this week, and I just want to mention to you, I want to see how you respond, because you might disagree with me on this. Because, we've had presidential conventions going on, and since 1976, first really only national convention that I was a delegate. I was a delegate for Ronald Reagan in 1976, where that was the last time. And that was the last time we actually had a convention that was designed to pick the candidate. But since that time, Republican and Democrats, they're not that purpose. They're just shows. And guess who's paying for it? You pay for the Democrats, and the Democrats pay for the Republicans, but most people aren't either Republican or Democrat, but large majority are independents, and they have to pay. Guess how much they've spent over the last, since 76? It's $220 million to do all that stuff, all this grandstanding and all this free advertising. So I co-sponsored the bill that said, no more tax money for conventions. Today, we face the economic crisis. I think every bit as serious as the economic crisis. As a matter of fact, I put it a little bit higher than the economic crisis is the attack on our civil liberties, our personal liberties. The mention of how we can be arrested and these assumptions made. I think this is a very, very serious shift. And the way it comes about, I mean, the fact that executive orders, if I had ever had a chance to be the president and I could use executive orders, the only executive orders I would ever do was write an executive order to cancel out the executive order. Constitution that says who writes the laws. It's the Congress supposed to write the laws, and not the president, not the courts. Just think of where we would be if we would prohibit the courts from writing law or interfering in state laws. Guess what? We would never have Roe versus Wade. We would have had a Texas law that wouldn't have been repealed by the Supreme Court. Yeah. So it is under. I strongly support the position that we could settle a lot of problems. It wouldn't be perfect, and that is repeal Roe versus Wade. I'll tell you how to do it. I have a bill in that by majority vote of Congress and the signatures by the President says that the jurisdiction of that issue is removed from the federal courts, and then the states will run the if you think of all the laws the executive branch writes, not only the executive, just signing statements. Well, I like this part, but I don't like this part. I'm going to sign this. They take upon themselves that they have a line item veto. But what about regulations? Are regulations equivalent to laws? Absolutely. They're worse because nobody knows where they are or what they say, and you're always tried in a court outside the regular court system. You're guilty until proven innocent. Thousands and thousands of pages. When are we going to wake up and say enough is enough? On The American people suffered the onslaught of 40,000 new laws. It's too many. I'd like to get rid of 40,000. Another bit of encouragement we have, this week with the election in Wisconsin. A difficult task, politically unpopular, and up till now it's been a political disaster to take on unions, in government unions. But Walker took it on, and he came out with more votes this time than he went in. We need Walker with backbone. I think his victory was very good, and it will help. It's not going to solve the problem. It's going to help other states. States have more obligations, and Texas has been a better state, and we've done a lot better because some of our rules are stricter, didn't suffer as much in the recession and all. But the fact that you take a state like California and others that have just gone overboard on these promises, there'll be more states seeing out to them. But they don't have a printing press, so they have more pressure. In Washington, it's different, because when the politicians know that they continue to spend, and they don't have to face up to their constituents and say, well, no, I can't vote for this and this and this, and I'm not going to vote anything on the military, and they go on and on. They keep voting it. Guess why they can get away with that? Because they can always go to the lender of last resort, and that is the Federal Reserve System. If you're looking for solutions economically and you want a different foreign policy and you want to bring things under control, you do have to study the issue of money. Because it's very bad constitutional law, because gold and silver is still legal tender under the Constitution. Morally, it's equivalent to counterfeit, so it's a moral breakdown. Economically, it's a disaster because it is the cause of the business cycle. Booms and busts until eventually you get a real big bust, and we're in the middle of this big bust, which I believe has actually been going on for the last 12 years, since the year 2000. But this other notion, which is less talked about, is the fact that it facilitates big government. The politicians don't have to act responsibly. The people don't have to act responsibly. Or do we get knocks on doors in Washington and say, I think we're in trouble, so I think what you should do is cut what I'm getting next year by 10%. Never! You never get that. But the facilitating of this by saying that if you have these treasury bills and the market doesn't want to buy them and the Fed buys them, not only do they keep interest rates relatively low, we have negative interest rates right now. Gross distortion, and guess what it's doing? Building up debt and not stimulating the economy. But guess who got bailed out? All the guys ripping us off for 12, 15 years through this financial bubble in the housing market, they're the ones who got bailed out. What happened to the average guy, the middle class? They suffer the consequences. They lost their jobs and they're losing their houses. So this whole notion that the welfare system will take care of the poor is an absolute lie. It takes care of the rich. We're getting close to that day, and we should be ready for it, and that should be, the obligation of the party that voices good sentiments toward fiscal conservatism and bringing people together. But my idea is of bringing people together. If you bring people together for the wrong ideas, what good is it? You have to